Okay, on to our next presentation, which is being presented by Nicci Godsman, Learning and Development Strategy Manager at HBF Health. Nicci is responsible for leading the organisation to identify, develop and implement learning and development strategies that enable the HBF Group to achieve its business objectives. Nicci has more than 20 years of experience in leading people through change, in learning and development, and building organisational capability through developing and empowering people. Prior to HBF, Nicci was with the Department of Training and Batchelor Institute in Northern Territory and spent 13 years within the Western Australian TAFE sector in various senior manager and director roles. Please welcome to the stage Nicci Godsman.
Thank you. Hello. I'm very pleased to finally be up here. I've had to sit there and with those nervous feelings in my stomach all day. So I'm pleased that finally I'll be able to stop snubbing people when they ask me what I do and what my story is, because I've been saying, I'm not going to tell you, because I'm going to tell you on stage today. So I work for a company called HBF, and when I can click that, it will just work for me. No, back one. I can see it here. So I work for a company called HBF, and if you were seeing my screen up there, it would be saying HBF Making Healthy Happen. Most of you probably don't know HBF, so if I can just be indulged a little bit and I'll introduce my company to you. We are a 70-year-old Western Australian-based company, and it's in the industry of health insurance. We're Western Australian-based, as I said, and we've had market share in the health insurance industry for as long as we've been in existence, except for the last 10 years, and we're slowly declining. We have 1,000 people in our workplace. We have 19 branches across the state. We have a call centre of about 300 people, and we are just now expanding upon a national venture, and you'll hopefully hear our name a little bit more in the eastern states. This is our catchphrase, Making Healthy Happen. We, 5 years ago, commenced a journey towards being less of just health insurance and more being a health partner. We recognised that to have a competitive edge, and increasingly against the boopers and the Medibank, that we needed to actually have something that gave us an advantage. And in Western Australia, we built ourselves up through promoting health, because we recognised that if people were healthy, then we were going to align with them, they were going to be engaged with us. We purchased Friendly's Pharmacies. We lead the Run for Reason, which is a state-based major run event for an annual event. We run park events or fitness in the park events. We have health checks, those sorts of things for our people. We actually think of our people as members as opposed to just a number, and that's our biggest difference. We're a not-for-profit organisation, and when we were hearing before, we're actually more about making healthy happen as opposed to just not-for-profit, and we genuinely care about our members. The story I'm going to share with you today is probably not so much different from many of you who've implemented a learning management system. I remember probably about 10 years ago I did a major PD event where they were talking about you only need to be the 1% different against others. And during my life, I sort of achieved success, and I think, well, how come I've achieved success and others haven't? And I think this is my story about the 1% difference that has made our organisation in learning and development completely successful in the last 12 months. And hopefully you'll get some of our experience or something from my story that might help you with yours. So I've never worked for an organisation that actually lives and breathes its values. We all probably know the values of our organisation. I don't know how many of you would actually put your hand up and say, I live and breathe those values. So who knows their values of the organisation? Good. Who actually breathes them as an organisation? So it's a much lesser percentage. Our values are we care, we're open and honest, we look for better ways, and we're committed to health and wellbeing. And it's an amazing place to work with 1,000 people that actually walk and talk that. And this reflects our culture. So we spent a bit of time in the last 6 months trying to consolidate a lot of our brand and brand reputation. And these 3 points up here, we're sort of leading at the moment in terms of what is our culture at HBF. As a learning development manager, we have drilled down into those questions or those labels there and thought, how do we as learning and development help make healthy futures happen for our people and therefore our members? And this is our journey towards achieving that. So I've been with L&D now since November 2013. They brought me into the business to introduce or to help lead the development of a blended learning project, which was really online learning solutions or blended learning solution for our frontline people, so our call centre people. They were at the same time also introducing a learning management system. They had no one in the role prior to me who had any experience in either blended learning or learning management. And it was a little out of skew. They'd started developing all this online product, but they didn't have the LMS. They'd started doing a procurement process with someone who actually didn't understand what an LMS was. They also had an L&D team which was disengaged. There were people leaving, new people being brought on, and I wasn't actually part of that team, which was really, really challenging because I don't know if you've implemented LMSs, but you really need to have an alignment with where the business is going and with what that vision of L&D actually is, because otherwise it makes it a bit challenging. So I was over there and they actually put me on another floor because there wasn't enough room down in the L&D team. And I thought, okay, we'll start building that. I've got 2 people. They were great, and I needed to start recruiting. And then I said, well, I think I need to look after the LMS as well. So that came on board, and we were probably about a month or 2 through the procurement process. It had started through a December period. I got back in January, and we really weren't happy with the responses from the first phase or the first round of procurement. And we went through it because it had started and we had to, and I wasn't happy with that as a solution. Alongside of that, the manager who was the L&D manager at that time, she left, and so they said, well, Nicci, can you do it all? And I said, well, yeah, okay. And what it did for me was fantastic because it meant that I could bring the 2 visions together. So the goal of what the initial intent for the blended learning in the LMS was and the vision for the L&D. But I had 2 people in my team. I had 5 trainers who were actually going to be, were being moved on, and I had to try and build that vision up. We have quite a conservative organisation in terms of IT that needed to be sort of developing at a much quicker pace, particularly because we're going into national expansion projects. So we needed to actually recognise that our 70 years of history, very, very well embedded history, we couldn't just sit and rest on our laurels anymore. We needed to actually be able to progress our business and the development of our people at a pace that was in line with where the business needed to go. So we just introduced, not part of my team, someone else introduced in somewhere else in the business, a new intranet, just using a SharePoint base. And we were told, oh, you guys aren't part of digital, you're not part of marketing, we don't want something completely different. So we knew that we wanted to get people on board, but how are we going to do that in a conservative environment? We knew when we started looking at the LMSs that had come through the first round that we weren't happy with them. And so Meng, Jane and myself, we sat down and said, what do we actually want? We wanted something that was learner focused. We wanted something that was based on the user being able to guide themselves through their own learning journey, to be proactive so that it was responsive. We wanted it to be seamless. We didn't want our people to think, oh gosh, another password that I've got to remember, another system that I've got to go into. And we actively started seeking product out there that was going to meet our needs. And we came to SumTotal as, doing our Google search, and we said, great, going to use it, we really like that. Obviously we went out to a second round of tender, and they came through with the goods. We were so impressed with it because it actually met all our needs. It was based, the presentation presented to us a system that could support the flexibility, the design, the integration, the seamlessness and that learner-centred focus that we actually wanted. It was a long and lengthy procurement process, and I think all those were involved were very pleased when it was finished. We had a very tight legal team that just made it quite difficult, and I don't know whether anyone else has encountered that, but I wanted to try and get things going as quickly as possible. I think that started about March, and we didn't sign off until October. So it was a long time coming. Meanwhile, all my products were being developed for the frontline delivery, and I still had nowhere to actually put them. We eventually started implementing in October last year. And I remember at the first implementation session, we were starting to get these little presentations of, oh, this is what the sum total is. And we'd seen really fancy LMSs at the initial launch and the proposal. And the ones we were being shown, we were like, no, we don't quite want that. We don't quite want that, because we had a vision. By this point, we actually knew exactly what we wanted it to look like. We knew how we wanted it to work. We knew that I had a design team that could do it for me. And we pushed Frank, who was our presenter, to say, no, we need something else. We know it can do more. We know it can do more. And eventually he showed us, I think it was Avon's LMS site. And we said, great. We know that now we're confident that this product can actually do everything that we thought it could. I've got a design team of 3 guys, and they produced, and you could see that completely seamless. This is our LMS launch page, and the previous page was our intranet. So people actually don't know that they're going into a new system. It's accessible via our intranet. We also introduced single sign-on for the business, which was the first time initiative. No one had actually had single sign-on before, so consequently, people just log on or click on the link from the intranet and it takes it straight to them. That's the scrolling screen. I haven't got it going at the moment, but it scrolls through. So we have messages that change so that it's an interactive type of environment. At the time of launch, we thought we really want to make this successful. Previously, the LMS in the business has only been used for compliance-based modules. And everyone knows compliance, you don't associate that with a really positive thing. So we didn't want to just launch it as a compliance-driven system. We developed a lot of simulations, and we wanted it to be pretty much an environment that people could guide their own learning journey. So we work with a 70-20-10 philosophy. For those that understand that, it's the 70% experience, 20% exposure, and the 10% education. And we really want people to be able to guide their own education through this as well. So we developed our e-learning modules. We've had leadership components within there. And I started thinking when we were wanting to implement, we wanted something that would draw everyone in. Because we've got a 1,000-strong workforce, and we didn't have, if they weren't going to just use it for compliance, what was the draw card to this system so that they would start actually using it and realise that it was going to be something that would be of value for them. So we have an initiative right in the middle there called HBF Balance, and it's all about wellbeing. And people book through the system to attend events. And we put balance on there, and it started to draw people in. We introduced to the leadership, so I've just got a couple of screens there for the leader team. And then we also recognised that our administrators, we wanted it seamless for them as well, so we created an administrator dashboard as well. So it was all nice, smooth, working really well. About 3 months ago, I was at an HR conference, and I was sitting there watching people like myself present, and they were talking about all these wonderful outcomes that they'd achieved, and I was thinking, I wonder what the people actually do think. Is it as true as that person's presenting it? And I was reflecting on me being up here, thinking, I'm going to say, oh, it's wonderful, everyone's embraced it, it's fantastic, it's working really, really well. And I thought I really wanted to be able to just present that to you and say, has it been or hasn't it been? So I started asking the questions in the last couple of months going, do you guys know what my learning is? Do you know what sum total is? Do you know what the LMS is? And we were getting that sense that people really didn't know. So we were thinking it was really successful. We had a very, very strong change management process in place. We had a wonderful system. We had a fantastic team of people, but still the people in the business didn't actually align with it and hadn't engaged with it. And we started thinking, well, how can we make that more successful? Because we want it to be something that they just used and that they recognised as their platform for linking into learning. what we finally got a new compliance suite, and we introduced that. And just through the introduction of that suite, which aligned with the approach to our way of learning, meant that people had to go in there. They had to complete their compliance within a period of 2 months. And the other thing that they needed to do was we started all meetings and things like that. We started getting registrations to occur just through My Learning. We stopped talking about it as you have to go through My Learning. They'd get the email link, they'd get an invitation, they would come in here just by nature of the request that was being asked of them. And we started getting responses of, oh, that was really good being able to register. And the actual developers of the people that were running the sessions would say, they're full, I've got people coming along. We've got people leaders going, I've just been able to check my progress of my team. And it wasn't something that we had to do, but we just started exposing the LMS via a number of different mediums to the people that we were working across our business. And we started getting that sense of, okay, we might be starting to get there. So then how will we actually know that we're there? What we're trying to introduce is a learning culture that people completely are enabled to learn in HBF, to be supported by their people, to have their people leaders guide, mentor, coach them through. It's something that's very, very different. Learning and development used to be just the training team. We're now learning and development. What we're doing is considering that whole pathway of people capabilities, and just in that last session there, thinking about the analytics. We're not quite ready to do that because we've got the LMS now, we've got our HR system, but we don't have that middle bit in the middle, which is going to actually give us the information in the big piece. So are we there yet? We're not really there. We're partially there. We've got people coming on the journey. We recognise that we really need that step to continue on, and we need to continue developing the products and growing the business in a way that they're using the tools to benefit them, not just as something that they have to use. So when people are stopped talking about it and it's just actually happening, then we'll know we're finally there. Our journey's been long, it's been challenging, but we're confident that we're going in the right direction, and the sum total product has been fantastic for us. So thank you very much.